and I was young. I got sober young. So I'd play and then they'd offer me a drink and I'd say, no, I don't drink. And they're like, oh, what, you got to get up early? Or then one time I said it doesn't serve me anymore. And so now I always say that. This was a few years in.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the food that I eat affects the way that I feel. That was like, I had no idea. When I really look at the thoughts that I'm having, they're so self-defeating. And so it has to be a really conscious thing to change the sentence around, But if I can write down the thought, it's sort of just getting it out of my brain, And sometimes to rephrase the thought in a positive way is helpful.
Yeah. Welcome to the Collaborative Resource Hub by Wellness Provisions. We're bridging the gap between mental health, wellness, and rock and roll. I'm Amy McBride, owner of Wellness Provisions, the most badass wellness business. Hey, are you feeling a little stuck in life? I offer wellness coaching sessions. Book a session with me if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead. Sessions are available worldwide. And check this out. Wellness Provisions supplies rock and rollers with high-quality supplements. We've simplified your shopping experience and given you a trustworthy place to go where you can essentially shop blindfolded. And did you know all our Collaborative Resource Hub interviews air on YouTube as well as all major podcast platforms? Subscribe to stay in the loop. Go immerse yourself in the full Collaborative Resource Hub experience over on our website. You'll have access to helpful resources that will inspire and educate you. So let's inspire each other. If that guy did it, so can you. Last but not least, my legal disclaimer. Nothing in this interview or the Collaborative Resource Hub substitutes medical advice. Please connect with your GP if you need medical guidance. Kate, thank you so much for sitting down and hanging out. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I had a nap, so I'm balanced and mostly awake.
Yeah, the nap did it for you?
It did. I think it did. It worked. Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. I read that the most productive people take naps. I read that before.
Yeah, it's a thing. And it's interesting actually, because I used to, back when I was trying to like recalibrate my adrenals and actually like pump life into them, I was tired all the time and I would want to take naps. And then I got really like frustrated with myself and was really hard on myself because in my head, I'm thinking like, well, adults don't have to take naps, like this is ridiculous. And then I ended up talking with a homeopathic doctor and she imparted one thing that lasted on me. And she's like, if a little kid came up to you and said, I'm really tired, can I take a nap? What would you say? You'd say yes. And so she's like, you got to look at yourself like that little kid and be kind to yourself. And so I was like, oh, it's a game changer.
Totally. In not just in the nap realm, in every realm, right?
Yeah, it's true. You have to be compassionate to yourself.
Yeah.
Real quick, for people who have not heard your music before we get into like all like the good nitty gritty, stuff here, how would you describe your music to someone who hasn't heard you?
Well, someone referred to it as junkyard-folk before, and we've sort of taken that and ran with it. So I think that sums up kind of the core of it. In describing this most recent album is a bit different. We're saying like dusty Lana Del Rey galloping down Bourbon Street with like a case of Corona.
All right. That's like really good imagery. I can hear that with it. I played some of your stuff to my mom actually, and she felt that it was like really, she said it's very period, like 1920s was like what she was picking up.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Your voice is just like super fucking cool. I love your voice, and I'm not super into female singers, so
thank you.
Compliment. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's interesting, right? Like I have that, I guess I'm more like prone to female singers. It's interesting how we have those preferences.
Yeah. So what does wellness mean to you? Very broad question.
Whoa.
I know.
Is that how you start all of them, or is that special for me?
Pretty much. I'll either go like
Okay.
super broad strokes with a very general question,
All right.
or if you want
I
to
didn't know
talk
if I just got the hard question.
yeah, and it's not multiple choice.
Yeah. Well, wellness, in a sense, I think it means like valuing myself. I guess that's like really how I view, if we're talking about my own wellness, it's because I guess I can't talk about anybody else's, right?
True.
It's sort of that kind of thing. We can't diagnose.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it's just maybe some sort of self-value scale.
Okay.
That's like where is the same as my wellness scale.
Cool.
Was that a good answer?
Is it? There's no wrong answer. Yeah, you passed. You passed. Right. I will give you a trophy for that answer. Yep.
This is actually one of my favorite things about Zoom. Sometimes we Zoom with this little girl, Imogen, who I got really close with over the pandemic. And she'll we'll have like a little tea party or something. And so it started off, I happened to have a mug and she was making tea or coffee for us. And then I said, "Oh, thank you." And then she handed it to me and I went like this. And she was like, "Whoa." She was like blowing her mind.
Wow. Yeah. So, all right. Is there anything that I love this question, and I actually used to kind of phrase it differently, and I've tweaked the phrasing of it now is there anything that you're thankful for knowing now that you didn't know when you were younger?
Yeah. Gosh, so many things. One thing, I was just talking about this, so it's fresh on my mind, but it's a big one for me, is that I can ask for what I want. I think that especially like in my career has been a major lesson to just ask.
Yeah.
And the worst that can happen is someone says no, that's not that bad.
Right.
But the alternate side of it is that you open up new opportunities, and that's been a big lesson career-wise, but I guess personal life as well.
Yeah. Do you think it was like confidence or just like your self-worth, valuing that was tripping you up before?
I actually feel like maybe it was a societal thing. I almost feel like as a, I don't know what it's like to grow up anything other than a little girl, but I know as growing up as a little girl, like I wasn't necessarily encouraged to ask for what I want.
Interesting.
And I guess it just never occurred to me. I mean, I was very independent and I went after things, but to really say this is what, or in my career though, it's more of like in a favor sense.
Okay.
Hey, would it be cool? Do you mind doing, whatever? Like the first time that I really learned it always happens late at night because I feel like I have like less inhibition, but like in a good way. In a good way now, in a good way.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I would love to have an animated video for this song. And then I thought, well, if you could have anyone do it, who would it be? And I do have a favorite animator, Emily Hubley. She did, I really loved the Hedwig and the Angry Inch growing up.
Okay.
The movie, and then later I got to see the show. But so she did the animation for that. And so I was like, I would get Emily Hubley, which was like an insane thing to say. But I just reached out to her and she was like, yeah, I'm down. She was like, let's meet. I didn't even know where she lived. She lives in New Jersey. I'm in New York. She was like, let's meet for coffee. And then we like went for coffee. Like I was going to get one of her drawings, a tattoo. That was the first tattoo I wanted. It just opened up a whole new thing for me where I was like, oh, I have more access to the world than I thought I did, you know. I think
Totally.
that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's true. And if someone does say like no or not right now, it's not, you can't look at it as a reflection on you personally, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, but yeah, like fuck it. You just gotta like try. And I mean, like so many of the artists I ask for interviews, so many of them say yes. And I'm like, ah, cool. You just gotta ask.
Yeah, totally. I think people really respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
People really, I know I do. If someone's asking, you know, and you doing it in like a kind, humble way,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, you got to respect that.
Has there been anything else, anything around sobriety or mental health that has helped you stay more level or grown? You're like, why didn't I know that sooner?
Yeah. Well, of course, you know, it's been sort of for me as a sober person, it is just an unending road of lessons and hopefully will continue to be
Mhm.
unending until the end. But I think it's hard because there's so much. I mean, there's so much,
Yeah.
right? I had ideas about what it meant to be a creative person and what it meant to be a sober person, which was not something that I ever wanted. Um, but
Did you think you could be super creative and sober at the same time? Or
no,
did you? Yeah.
I actually literally was just talking to a group of women about this like an hour ago. Um, writers and yeah, I mean and it's so, you know, I really glamorized to that. I think, you know, that's not uncommon, like the idea of the writer who's just like, you know, tortured and but brilliant and out of their mind.
Mhm.
That was like there was something really
Yeah.
alluring
Yeah.
about that.
Romantic, sort of.
Totally. And you know, I've come, it took a while, quite a while, but I've come to kind of flip the script in my mind. You know, I actually now being there is like sort of an air of mystery uh in reality and in sobriety. And so especially more, you know, a few years into my sobriety, going to play a show, and I'd always support the musicians before me. If somebody was playing before me, I'd come and support. I'd always be on time for sound check. You know, I'd be on time for whatever it was. And then I would play, and then I would stay. Maybe if someone was playing after, if not, I would stay for just a little bit, say hi, and then leave. And it became, I sort of started to embrace the kind of like mystery of that, you know, that people are like, what's that about? She comes on time and then, you know, like, like is like, doesn't do really dumb shit and then like leaves.
It's true, because that's true. Being very in order and, you know, in control can be a mystery, because it's like, how's that but we're expecting them to be like this, or, you know, whatever. So
Yeah, definitely. I really have come to like that. And you know, I it was hard at the beginning when people would offer any mind altering substance and I'd be like, you know, I don't, especially alcohol, because I feel like alcohol is just, it's like you don't drink. What?
right,
You
right.
know? And I was young, I got sober young. So it was really confusing for some people. And so I'd play and then they'd offer me a drink and I'd say, no, I don't drink. And they're like, oh, what, you got to get up early? Or I'm like, no, I just don't, you know, it was hard to comprehend. And then one time I said, I don't know where it came from, but I said, someone said, why? And I said, it doesn't serve me anymore. And so now I always say that. I just say, if someone asks why, I say it just doesn't serve me anymore.
I love that.
And it is like a bit of a mystery, but also it's something that people can't argue with. They
Yeah.
can't argue with what serves me.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just strictly about you with that reply.
Yeah.
Because I know like there's a lot of people I've talked to, and they all battle with, you're playing in someone's town or in another country or whatever, and whatever their drink is, or these people are so excited to see you, everyone wants to like buy you drinks and here, try this, and like, so it's like a respect thing that they struggle with wanting to be sober at the same time. So like, how have you navigated that?
I, for the most part, have been really pleasantly surprised. I don't get a lot of pushback.
Hmm.
And, I think like we had talked about earlier, was that it's sort of just more in the general conversation,
Yeah.
sobriety, and even just being healthy, and
Uh-huh.
thinking about those things, that didn't used to be something I think that was openly talked about.
Right.
So I think there's a greater awareness, and I have traveled in other countries where or toured in other countries where alcohol is a big part of culture. I think it is everywhere. I'll
It's
just say,
everywhere.
I think it is. Like sometimes people say, oh, my industry is a big, there's a lot of alcohol in and I'm like, I guess maybe that's every industry. It's just sort of everywhere. But yeah, I just haven't really gotten much push. I've always been pleasantly surprised. There've been maybe one or two times, but I also am very firm about it. There's no hesitation or no question.
Yeah.
It's just the way that I live. And there's always like little, you come up with little things that you can say. I'll pass on the Guinness or whatever, but
Uh-huh.
I'll try some of those chips or
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know
Yeah.
what country.
Yeah.
That was Ireland, but like,
Right.
wherever
I
it
got
is,
that.
yeah, you just there's ways to kind of get around it in a respectful way, and I think that's just the most important thing.
Yeah.
And we both know, I'm sure, that if anyone does push back, it's because there's something tender in there,
Uh-huh.
right?
Their insecurities.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely did. I didn't want anything to do with people who didn't drink or do drugs
Really?
when
Why?
I was doing it. Just was not, I didn't trust them. I didn't like, I mean, I had just the ideas about what that meant. But I think probably the very root of it was that it would expose my own stuff to myself, to
Mhm.
them, but also to myself. And I didn't want to face that. So the easy way to do that was then to just not be around people like that.
Right. Then
Just
there's
keep
no
doing
risk.
what I'm
Yeah.
doing with people that do what I do. And yeah, yeah.
Did you ever do like therapy or anything like that, or anything kind of structured to help you when you started cleaning yourself up?
Yeah, I mean, I got into uh I loved drugs and alcohol from the get. Like when we had DARE, did you
Yeah.
have DARE?
Yes.
Drug abuse
Yeah.
resistance education. We would have like the cop come in and do like DARE with us, and I was immediately hooked. I was like, whatever that is, I want that. I just was like, the danger part, the uh abuse resistance part totally like went over my head. It was the D and the E that like I was like, I gotta drug education. Like I was just like, yeah, give me that. Um so yeah, I mean, I went to get help in a different state when I was a teenager, when I was 16. And that sort of opened, they had social workers there and therapists and medication
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. That's where I went to my first AA meeting then.
Okay.
That was sort of just like a little peek inside for me.
Right.
I had I was always, and I've heard this from sober friends as well, like I was interested in stuff in psychology. Like I was interested in things like therapy and just how the brain works and also and spirituality. I mean, I was like really, I was a seeker. I think that's like a common thread is I was just a seeker. And so I got really into Buddhism and well, just Eastern philosophies in general. That resonated with me. I was a member of the Shambhala Center when I was living in Boston, and I was an active alcoholic and addict, Um, and so I was always searching. And, I'm fortunate that those things were available to me and were never looked down upon or anything either, you
Yeah.
know.
Do you
Um,
still incorporate that kind of stuff into your life now?
yeah, definitely. It takes a whole village to keep me sane.
What other kind
But
of
it's a
stuff?
good, it's a very warm village.
Here's an advert in less than 20 seconds. Did you know that Wellness Provisions offers one-on-one wellness sessions? Yep. So if you're seeking to get healthy and ahead in life, but feeling a little stuck, then book a session and let's get you unstuck. Now back to the interview.
Yeah, I mean, I'm big on therapy and meditation, mindfulness,
Mm-hmm.
just moving your body in some kind of way is super helpful. What I can't do, it's hard, it's a lot of stuff, that was something when I got sober. This was a few years in.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the food that I eat affects the way that I feel. That was like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, I try to be conscious of all those things. It's a work. It's just, I'm a work in progress forever and always.
Yeah.
And,
We all
and
are until you're
yeah,
dead.
yeah. So, I try to do those things when I can do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
What does healthy eating look like to you?
You know what they say about the perimeter of the grocery
Yeah.
store?
So
pretty
that's,
much pretty
yeah,
much that for me. Like sugar is a big thing. Just refined sugar is like,
big part of your diet.
yeah, it's all refined sugar. Actually, just like down pixie sticks. Just straight pixie
Yeah,
sticks. I haven't seen one of them in a long time.
I know.
Pixie
I'm
stick.
sure they still make them.
They must. But sugar messes me up. It just messes me up. And so I generally avoid refined sugar, except for on Tuesdays. I allow myself whatever I want.
Really?
Yeah.
So what
And
did
I
you
try
have?
not to go too nuts. What
Okay.
day is it? Thursday?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, I had, it's dependent on where I am, but in New York, it's bagels, a bagel in the morning, and maybe some gummy bears in the day. And then dinner could be, well, whatever. There's a great, there's, I'm in New York.
Yeah,
It's great
exactly.
food here. So whatever I want, but and I don't eat too late, and I have all these little things, but
Mhm.
I have found that I need a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I need something like that.
Cheat days help a lot of people. So you're one of those people that cheat day keeps you able to, be healthy otherwise. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I think I listened to a really interesting podcast episode on willpower,
Mm.
and just sort of like, basically there's a reserve. So I'm not in a position to decline myself everything. That would be dangerous for me.
Yeah.
So, I don't for me, like mind altering substances, they're out. I
Right.
can't fool around. I can't have a Tuesday with them, so they're out. But the other stuff I can be more flexible with. And then it doesn't put me in a position where I want to like Hulk,
Right.
do the Hulk thing.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense, because then it doesn't make you wander and crave, and then have to be concerned about dipping into the other things.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah. Um, what's so you're big on exercise. Does that help you kind of manage stress levels on the day to day?
Yes, definitely. I've gone through different preferences when it comes to that. But for me, when I am doing that regularly, whether it's running or yoga or lifting weight, that's one of the greatest things I can do for my mental health. I think that, and like for me, that and meditation
Yeah.
are like kind of a must.
Is positive thinking important to you? On like a
Yeah.
scale of 1 to 10, how important is it?
Oh God. Well, I think it's like a 15 probably, but that's another thing that's just kind of a constant challenge.
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think it's really key. I think a lot of us, I'll speak for myself. When I really look at the thoughts that I'm having, they're so self-defeating, and so it has to be a really conscious thing to change the sentence around.
Yeah.
And you talked about with the naps, like the kid, what would you tell a kid?
Right.
And it sounds like cheesy, like I always feel like the inner child stuff sounds cheesy, but it's always helpful for me. And I think that that's a pretty clear, like easy way to do it, is just observe my self dialogue.
Yeah.
And is that how I would talk to a loved one or a little kid or whatever? And the answer is usually absolutely not. That would be a
Right.
terrible thing to do.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. Our self-talk is like, I mean, and that's something I feel like that's being put out there more and more is, so if you haven't gotten the memo yet, our self-talk is absolutely horrible compared to how we treat other people. And we should be treating ourselves way better.
Yeah, definitely. This came up in my brain. It's like it is related, but um I had this I was doing this meditation. It was like a guided thing. And which I used to be really against because I thought it was like training wheels.
Yeah.
But but I'm all for it now. Um in fact, there's an app called Fit Mind. That's like it's mindfulness stuff, but all sorts of different things, and I just think it's the best. But I was doing this guided thing, and they said to notice thoughts and feelings and separate the thoughts and feelings. And it was the craziest thing. I have very few feelings and a whole lot of thoughts. I mean, a whole lot of thoughts. And I get them confused, you know. I
Yeah.
get them confused a lot. And especially if my thoughts are kind of negative self-talk,
Mm-hmm.
then it feels like agitation or
Yeah.
whatever it might be, but it's just a thought. I mean, it affects my feelings, but when I know that it's just a thought, then I'm like, oh, that's easy. Feelings a little more difficult. Thought, all right, I can turn that around. you
Yeah.
know and that was a big realization for me. Thoughts and feelings. I never thought about stuff like this before.
Well, I never knew until maybe 3 years ago that anger isn't the feeling in itself. There's always an underlying feeling like hurt or, you know, some kind of vulnerable something, but it
Totally.
manifests as anger. And I was like, hold on, there's like I'm actually feeling other emotions here. I didn't know that truly until 3 years ago. So.
Yeah, well, totally. I mean, I think we talk about anger like it's definitely it's its own thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I had an interesting experience here in New York. I was walking down the street and there was this big guy, tough guy, walking, crossing the street, and a car almost hit him. And it's sort of, you know, like he was crossing not even in the crosswalk, but the car like veered, and then the guy flipped out, and he started hitting the car and get out of the car, you know, he's yelling at the driver. And my first thought was, look at this asshole, right? But what happened next was that I had this sort of flash of him as sort of like a kid, a toddler, like a kid. And then I was like, oh, he's just really scared. He like thought that his life, like he was scared for his life. And that was the reaction, you know? And so that's like such a helpful thing for me too. When I see someone erupt like that, and my first thought is, what an asshole, you know, what a jerk.
Yeah.
There's another layer. And usually it's fear.
Yeah.
You know how much of our shit is fear?
Oh, dude. Oh, like you make decisions out of like two places. Really, love or fear.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think that knowledge is like, if we can keep that in mind throughout the day, that's where it's at. How simple is that? We don't have to think about, you know, 100 different emotions or feelings or intentions, right?
Uh-huh.
It's just these two things. And then that's cool. That's simple.
Yeah. I read something recently too that was you're kind of like you're granted two reactions, if you will. So if something happens, a situation, whatever, and your impulse initial go-to reaction is whatever this is, you know, something in haste, anger, whatever. But if you can catch that, and then, you know, whatever your secondary reaction is within that moment, like that's your growth. So maybe you don't have one, so then there hasn't been growth. But like basically it's like, okay, if like you know, freak out at first, but then if you catch it you know, and bounce back with something a little more balanced, like,
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. And I think finding that space is the key, right? That first, it's the knowledge that we have that moment after the first reaction.
Yeah.
And then it's finding out how to, you know, take advantage of it, to use it, you know?
Yeah. So like when you have the thoughts that are like negative self-talk, what is there anything that you do knowingly to reverse that or turn that around?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's all sorts of tactics that I've learned. This sounds maybe silly, but a thing that works for me is really visual, like that the visualization stuff helps for me. So in Shambhala, they talk about thoughts as like passing clouds, the touch and go method. So you touch the thought, but it's passing. You just touch it to acknowledge it and let it keep passing. And for me, using that imagery, almost like swiping, maybe this is like very much like, I'm a millennial, swiping the thought, you know, and visualizing, like, or sometimes it could be like drop kicking the thought, but it's just like, you know, really visually like, that's not serving me. That's not needed, you know?
Yeah.
I'm kind of rejecting that but not in a, because that's the other thing too, right? We can't be like, no,
Right.
no,
Denial.
then it just either we go into denial or it just keeps coming back harder, you know? So like there has to be some gentleness in there. So that's definitely something that works for me. If I'm able to write it down, writing stuff down is just, that's another thing I didn't mention in like what I need to, you know, of the list of the many things I need to act like a normal human,
Yeah.
good, solid human, is writing stuff down, saying stuff out loud and writing stuff down. But if I can write down the thought, it's sort of just getting it out of my brain,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes to rephrase the thought in a positive way is helpful,
Yeah.
just to get in practice of that.
Yeah.
Because if, like, for me, I wasn't used to positive thinking or positive language about myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I really had to, like, okay, how would I rephrase that so that
Right.
it's a little more gentle and positive?
That's good. Yeah, because if I have like negative kind of thoughts or like going through a phase where there's just, junk, clutter, whatever, like in my head, I'll have as a go-to, sometimes literally written down, but like these three like affirmation sort of things that if I start getting like a little off balance, then I just start flooding those in my head so that there's no space for the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, that's like where kind of people talk about it a lot, but it's legit gratitude lists and things like that. I mean, that's where that stuff comes in. It's just getting in the practice of it.
I'm super into gratitude practice. Love it. Do you ever take, since you're a millennial and you swipe negative thoughts, do you ever take screen breaks or social media breaks?
Yeah, I'm a older millennial, so I know both sides. Screens to me are the enemy of my creativity, of my creative mind. I thoroughly believe that. Even though I use, thesaurus, sometimes a rhyming dictionary on rhymezone.com, I post my shows online. I use the computer a lot and my phone a lot, but
As a tool.
as a tool. And that's yes, thank you. That's like the important thing, is that am I using it as a tool or a distraction?
Yeah.
And it's hard. I mean, these things are designed to get us hooked,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm no smarter or like I can't out whatever it's
Art.
called. Yeah.
That.
But I can't, like, I don't have the defenses because I'm a human being and this was
Yeah.
created to like hook me.
Yep.
So yeah, that's something that I do kind of have to make little rules or suggest strong suggestions.
Uh-huh.
I always reject rules. I'll fight.
Yeah.
Strong suggestions, I'll take usually.
Okay.
But when I'm really on my game, I have a no scrolling suggestion. Was why do I need to scroll
Right.
on social media? Really, truly, for me, nothing good ever comes out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing good ever comes out of scrolling for me. It's kind of comparing myself to others or just procrastinating, distracting myself from something that else that I have to do. And then the other big thing for me is like, well, I have the luxury of like having a separate bedroom from my living room. I didn't always have that, but I do now. And so I don't have any screens in the bedroom, but definitely at night, no screens. They have to be left out here in the living room.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that's super helpful because if I reach for my phone first thing in the morning, it just sets me up for craziness, I think.
Yeah.
It's too much stimulation first thing.
Mm-hmm. It's good awareness to have and then sticking to it. Are there any supplements that you're like super into?
I mean, I've tried all of them pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I think magnesium is always a good one. Some kind of B complex. Actually, that's something that coming back, like that's something that I use regularly. That's what I got right now.
Okay.
What are you all about right now? Supplements?
A lot of mushrooms, like a blend. I have chaga, just straight chaga right now. Mushrooms are one thing I do on a regular basis. Bone broth, I do that. I have a powder that I use, and that I sell it, and it's like So instead of like making bone broth, which I do that too, but this one
Yeah.
it's like a vanilla, it turns it into like a vanilla protein powder, but it's just dehydrated bone broth with a little vanilla flavor that you reconstitute with a liquid. And so I make hot chocolate bone broth in the morning.
Ooh. All right. I'm gonna have to get some of that from you.
It's super
I,
good.
I'm all about bone broth as well. And like the powder, it's tricky because some of them say that they are vanilla or whatever, but it just tastes like straight bone broth. So you wouldn't want to make like a cocoa.
Yeah, this one, I sell the Ancient Nutrition brand, and it's the one that I use. And it's sweetened with a little bit of monk fruit, which I don't like monk fruit, but I've also been doing this. I think I've been doing this every morning for almost 5 years now. So like I'm just used to it, but I dump in a bunch of raw cacao. So that kind of bitterness offsets the sweetness. And then I add in the mushroom powder, which you don't taste. And it's just warm, chocolatey, like in coconut milk.
That sounds amazing.
I know, it's really good.
Wow. All right. Yeah, well, I just got into chaga.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
In like coffee.
Fun fact about chaga, it's super, super duper healing for the epithelial tissue. So like that, like that's like the kind of tissue that lines all your organs, your gut lining. So it's like super reparative and healing for that, and your skin and stuff like that.
All right.
Yeah. Chaga's awesome.
I'll keep up with chaga.
Yeah. And it's also, overall like antioxidant, immune support, pretty great.
Yeah. We'll have to get a big thing of it for the road.
And just as a powder, then you can just like dump it into whatever, shake it up, and it's easy.
That's one thing I think, like as a, traveling for work, finding, because you can't bring like a whole bunch of different things. Like I used to in the morning it was like a chemistry lab in there, but on the road, you kind of have to choose like one or two things that work. But also keeping in mind, like when I'm traveling, like I'm more prone to get sick. My immune system's kind of being poked at in a lot of ways. And, I'll get some tips from you.
Cool.
Later.
Yeah. We can have a whole other chat just about like supplements sometime.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Do you have a favorite quote? I ask everybody their favorite quote. I love this part.
All right. Let me tell you. So this is a quote that I heard and I cannot find it again. Like so if anyone knows where like the exact quote, and I don't even know who said it exactly, but I believe it was Miles Davis. It sounds very Miles Davis, saying it to another horn player. And it's a music quote, but I believe that it applies to all aspects of my life. But after a solo, it's pretty piercing. After a solo, he said, I think Miles said to the player, try leaving some space between the notes and maybe some music will fall out. And it just struck me when I first heard that. Maybe one of my teachers said that in music school, but I always come back to it because not only do I think about it when I'm writing music, but I think about it in terms of my life and how I'm living my life and the importance of putting a little space in my life. And that's where the music comes, that's where the good stuff comes out. It's like when I'm not just constantly, go, whether it be my brain or physically, like just going thing to thing to thing. I can't fully appreciate it, so I need those moments. I need to make that space. So one day I hope to learn the actual quote, but that's the idea anyway.
That's awesome. Yeah, having the moments to breathe and to like be here in the present now. Yeah.
Be here now.
Oh, you've got that tattooed on you. Amazing.
Just have a reminder.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have this too shall pass, but it's tattooed on the back of my neck. So like, I never see it. Some reminder. All right. So our tagline is delay dying. So do you have any advice that you would give someone to delay dying, or in other words, live happier and healthier?
Yeah, sure, I do. Apart from, all the things that we talked about, which I do believe allows me to at least delay a sort of spiritual, emotional death, but I think this might sound real cheesy. I think it's important to smile. I think that there's something in sort of like, it's, we don't want to act as if in terms of pretending or in terms of denying our truth, but there's something that happens, I believe, when we smile. And I even in the studio do it, unless I'm singing something, a really sad song. But and I ask, people who sing with me to do it as well, background singers and stuff, is to smile when you're singing. It helps me bring the joy to what I'm doing, because I don't always feel it, even if it's a joyous activity. My mind is somewhere else. Yeah. So it kind of helps me bring me present, and it's contagious, it's like, so there you go. That's real cheese for you.
That's solid though, and I love it. So I'll give you another trophy.
Thank you.
Do you have anything that you want to share on? I know your album just came out recently.
Yeah. My album Rum Pum Po came out July 16th. And so all the songs are out now. There's 2 music videos. There's a couple more coming. You can download it or stream it, anywhere. But I keep all this stuff we talked about is in my music too, I can't get away from it. So it's all in there. And the theme of the album is inspired by Newton's laws of motion, and specifically the first one. An object in motion stays in motion, an object at rest stays at rest, unless an outside force comes along. And so that is sort of a theme as well in my own wellness journey. So it's out there to be listened to.
Cool. Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, and every Monday night, the red couch.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Our actual couch. That's a pin of our actual couch.
I love it.
Yeah, every Monday night, 8:30 Eastern, we stream. Me and Eric McFadden stream live from our red couch.
Cool.
On Facebook.
Yes, always a good time. All right. Well, thank you so much for this. I loved it. I just love hearing other people share what works for them. It just makes me super happy. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I feel like we could have gone for many more hours.
Yeah. Down lots of rabbit holes.
With the serpent, our figures fuzzy from the wool. He said, if I am the freer, the conscious redeemer, then you are the Gabriel. We flew to Loom to Toowoomba, talked of a spiritual itch, of faith unshapely and flighty. I was entirely ripe for the pitch. I'm talking transcontinental, Mr. Monumental, faded from my latest confection. He said that